Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Dockside Drama, the canvas clash that escalated. The second story, Restaurant Chaos, a server's meltdown leads to hammer-wielding drama. The third story, From Employee to Entrepreneur, How I Triumphed Over a Greedy Ex-Employer. The first story is Make My Canvas, You See. Character Sheet. ED, Entitled Dad. QW, Quiet Wife. C1 and C2, The Offsprings, 15-ish and 13-ish respectively. P1 and P2, The Cops. Me, yours truly. So I work on boats during the summer, making or repairing the canvas covering for them. Some of the coverings are just fabric. Some also have the plexiglass panels sewn into them. Patching the fabric, zippers, and Velcro can normally be done in an hour per panel. Doing glass replacement takes a few hours per panel. Creating a fabric-only cover from scratch can take a day per panel. Doing a glass cover can take 2 or more days per panel. This is just the sewing part, not accounting for the time it takes to take measurements and create a template, or waiting for specialty materials to arrive. Time-consuming work, but it pays enough for college tuition and cost of living during the school year. Also, most of my work is acquired by word of mouth. People see me in a marina attaching canvas to a boat, or customers recommend me to their friends. As a one-man operation, I have quite a lot of work, even without any proper advertising or retail location, to the point where my wait times can be up to 6 weeks. So to ensure that no client waits longer than another, I require a 50% deposit prior to starting the work. The deposit gets them a spot in line, and the rest of the payment comes when I deliver the canvas. So about a year ago, on a warm summer Wednesday night, I was outfitting one of my clients with a full rear enclosure for their 65-foot boat, 9 glass panels, the most expensive plexiglass, the thickest canvas I could find, etc. All around, I made ballpark $11,000, including the cost of materials. It's the piece I'm most proud of, out of all of my work. As I was leaving, my client mentioned that someone came asking about getting some work done on their canvas, and they recommended me and told them I'd stop by on my way out. I thought, well, why not? I'm already here, and it should take too long, right? So I went over, introduced myself and all that, and asked about the work they wanted done. C1, C2, and QW were quietly talking amongst themselves on the back deck, as I spoke to ED. I talked about my work, and pointed out some of my other clients in the marina to show them the quality. ED, wow, your canvas is fantastic. How much would it cost to redo my back deck and fly bridge, which is the top deck enclosure? Me, well, if you want me to make new canvas from scratch and not try and repair your old stuff, it'll probably be $900 to $1,100 per panel, depending on the material. So for 15 panels, $15,000-ish dollars? ED, $15,000? That's 1/3 the price of my boat. Me, well, you could go with a cheaper glass that isn't perfectly ridged, but it won't look as nice or last as long. ED goes and speaks with his wife briefly before returning. We'll do the more expensive stuff since we want it to last. We're leaving on Sunday to go on a family trip for a week, so you'll need to be done by Saturday. Me stands there for 15 seconds trying to process what he just asked me to do in such little time. Okay, so there's currently a 3-week-long wait list, and in order to get in line I'll need a 50% deposit. After that, ED, what kind of a criminal operation is this? Trying to extort me 50% and then make me wait a month? Are you trying to starve my kids? I won't pay you a penny until I get my canvas. Me, look man, I'm not getting into this. 50% is standard practice, and even if there wasn't a waiting list, it would take 3 to 4 weeks to do all your canvas. ED, 50% is not standard practice, and I will not sit around for 2 months for you to do my canvas. I will have it by Saturday. Me, you know what, I'm good actually. You keep the money and find someone else. ED did not take this well, as you might imagine. He proceeded to screech his lungs off incoherently at QW, until she went inside the cabin with the kids and slammed the door on him. Meanwhile, a couple people started wandering over to the scene whilst I tried to walk away. ED, of course, noticed me trying to leave. ED, hey OP, get back here and make my canvas, you see? ED proceeds to run past me, standing in my way, trying to stop me from leaving. He continues his screaming tirade about how I have to make his canvas for him, how I'm discriminating against him, etc. A fairly sizable crowd has now formed. Mostly the live-aboard folks, people who live on their boat as their primary residence, who all know me pretty well. Not wanting any more confrontation, I again try to leave, just trying to slip past ED. ED takes this as a slight against himself, I guess, and shoves me backwards, while go on about how he's gonna beat me to a pulp. Almost fell in the water, but I managed to catch one of the mooring lines holding the boat next to me. I should note that I'm fairly small, as being Asian normally entails, about 5'6" and 120 pounds. ED was a head taller and probably about 50 pounds more. I'm also pretty sure someone called the cops at this point, as ED continued to yell about kicking my A. I was tired after a long day of working, and I really wasn't in the mood for this. So when ED came running at me head on, I brought my knee up, nailed him in the tenders, and continued walking out to my car. Got in my car, cried a little, and just waited for the cops. Once they arrived, I told them what happened, and we walked out to the docks. ED was curled up on the ground, and being a drama queen and droning on about how I threatened his life. ED, thank God you're here, officers. Arrest that guy. He just threatened me and to steal my boat. P1 got ED's statement, and then went around taking statements from a few of the witnesses, while P2 tried to keep ED from being any more melodramatic. P1 came back to me, asking if I wanted to press charges, which I most certainly did. ED sees P1 walking over to him. Yes, officer, I want to press charges. P1, too bad. You're under arrest for assault, and for making false statements to a police officer. P2, please shut up now for everyone's sake. They let him off with probation, but he's since moved his boat to another marina, hopefully far away. If y'all want to hear any more stories about crazy boat people, let me know. The story of a nautical adventure with this smug and cocky guy is ridiculous to the point of tears. It's naive to think that you can create a good awning for a yacht in a few days. Apparently, he thought you were a wizard who could turn fabric and plastic into a masterpiece of marine engineering in the blink of an eye. He must have forgotten that you have a magnificent talent, not only for sewing, but also for performing a magical service, dodging fights. This guy has clearly mistaken your marina for the territory of his strange fantasies and illusions. I'm being ripped off. They want me to leave hungry, as if you were a vampire rather than an employee doing your job and demanding the standard upfront payment. And in the end, his pathetic attempts to get his pride back with the help of the police are ridiculous. What did he expect when he yelled, "Arrest this guy"? He probably thought the law was his personal servant, but instead he found himself in trouble. The second story is, server snapped and the whole restaurant heard and saw. I'm a bartender at a local franchise of a national restaurant chain, and yesterday was definitely Friday the 13th, due to the way people were acting. We had a few servers and kitchen staff come in anxious and upset over something. However, this one story took the cake. One server, we'll call Amy, which is obviously not her name, ended up getting her car towed that morning and was approximately 2 hours late for her shift. She had a sour attitude. Given her circumstances, it was understandable. I offered a hug and some kind words. She smiled tearfully, and that was what I thought would be the transition to a better mood for the shift. Boy, was I wrong. I should mention the next part of my story I did not witness, but did get multiple first-hand accounts, including another party involved. She completely botched a table's order, and rather than telling someone to get it fixed quickly, she tries to yell for things over the expo line to fix it. This is a no-no. Our expo guy has been there over 7 years, and is also married to the floor walker on duty that day. He says something to the effect of, "Amy, what's wrong? Why do you need all this?" Amy snaps and starts yelling at him, cursing and screaming so loudly that people in the main dining area could hear. She gets ushered into the office and starts cursing at the floor walker, Expo's wife. The screaming went on for 15 minutes in the office. Then Amy pulls a hammer out of the corner. We've been making a lot of improvement lately, therefore there are a lot of tools in the office right now. And goes after the expo guy. Thankfully, one of our salaried managers had just come in and jumped between Amy and him, and got the hammer from her. This manager is a freaking bad A in so many ways. After this, she wasn't even fired. She got sent home to deal with whatever she needed to. The nail in her coffin, though, is what she did as she walked out. I did witness this part, but first our main dining area has planters nailed to shelves with large plants in them. As she stormed through the dining area to the side door, she pulled down one of the plants and it smashed to the ground right before she entered the bar area. I had a couple of guys at my bar, and then as she made her way into the bar, she took one of my bar stools and threw it at one of the floor walkers who was serving that day. She was then told to leave the restaurant and never come back or face police involvement. Thankfully, the guys at my bar top just wanted to know the full story, because they were more entertained by this than upset. So I sought out Expo Guy as he came in from a cigarette he was allowed to have, and asked for the story. The guys at my bar top agreed that if they were ever quitting a job, that's how they'd go out. They left me a great tip. It's incredible how some people can turn an ordinary day at work into a real circus. Amy, already under obvious stress because of her lost car, decided to give everyone in the restaurant an unforgettable show. First, she had a fight with the controller right during lunch, which in itself is a violation of the rules. Then ran into the office and started hammering, yelling, and profanity at everyone around her. Absolute lawlessness. But the crowning moment of this performance was when she picked up the hammer and went at the controller. Thank God for having a hero manager who stood between her and danger like a true shield. And unbelievably, she didn't even get fired right after that. But on her way out of the restaurant, she decided to put on one last show, knocking a plant out of its support structure and throwing a bar stool at one of the waiters. She wasn't just sent home, she was banned from returning under threat of police. What theater? The third story is, a greedy ex-employer screwed himself by making me a non-contracted at-will employee. I worked in a position for 5 years at a marketing and branding company. Branded companies, did video editing, designed and managed websites, made $20 an hour, no benefits or perks, straight hourly employee, started right out of college and stayed out of a mix of guilt and anxiety. My coworker at the time convinced me that both her and I were making the same amount of money. Turned out she's a liar and was making something closer to $32 an hour. She had been lying to me so my pay wouldn't cut into hers. She admitted as much when I finally left the company. I walked when times got tough for everyone. I had the nerve to ask my boss to cover my hours when working from home, because he'd only pay us by project rather than the full day when we worked from home. I was sick and so was my mom, who had just beaten cancer. Sounds too awful to be true, but it genuinely is. My boss didn't like that and proceeded to basically insult me and belittle me, and try and make me out like I was the problem. I was tired, sick, emotionally burned out, and dealing with a mother who just survived cancer surgery. I walked. The ex-boss, greaseball scumbag, decided to send me a cease and desist because he didn't like I was working in the same area and offering the same types of services to similar clients. My prices are much lower and my work is the same, since I was literally the guy doing half the work in his office. Apparently, when his clients would argue with him over their invoice bills, my name would come up and they'd ask why I was a fraction of the price for the same type of work. They had my advertisements and would literally see the same service at half the price. He didn't have an answer, and from what I heard, he lost clients. The cease and desist was BS and made some fake claims about me stealing his clients. Never happened. I wrote back basically telling him to make peace with the fact that him and I have taken different paths in life. If you feel different, you're welcome to sue me. He didn't though, because he did a lot of illegal tax SH while I was working there, and any kind of review of the books, him claiming legal damages, which there are none, would reveal he wasn't paying taxes on everything he sold. The beauty of it was he'd never made me a contracted employee. I was at will because they wanted to always have the ability to fire me without notice, or give me any sort of contractual perks. Ultimately, he effed himself and his company out of greed, as he had no legal options to stop me when I finally walked. When I left without any legal red tape. No non-compete. No loss of my work over those 5 years. No nothing. I walked intact and I went solo. I started my own company, the end of that year, and I now work for a mix of independent private clients and manage the brands for a group of local nonprofit organizations, which is the work I always wanted to do. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my working life. My whole family sees it and they comment on how happy I am. I make more money than I ever did at my previous job, and I have more clients just for myself than my previous job had in the last year I worked there. What a fun punishment for a greedy former employer. He tried to keep you in the wrong status and ended up screwing himself. Your story is a prime example of how justice always finds its way back to those who violate it. You bravely got your way, started your own company, and even brought in more clients. That former boss must have been surprised to learn that you weren't as helpless as he thought you were. An important lesson for us all: don't give in to humiliation and don't be afraid to move forward, because you deserve better than scoundrels and greedy people. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.